fabled heat, where magic meets desire. Subscribe to ignite the fantasy.
The first time I saw her, the sea tasted of blood, not literally, of course. It was a metallic tang on the air, a phantom sensation that clung to the back of my throat, mirroring the unsettling beauty of the scene unfolding before me. Sunset bled across the cliffs of Halsey Cove, a molten stain of crimson and gold on the churning, slate-gray waves. The wind, a relentless sculptor, whipped strands of my hair across my face, stinging my cheeks with icy spray. My fingers, numb with cold despite my gloves, loosened their grip on my camera. It felt inadequate, a pathetic attempt to capture something that defied definition. She stood where the water met the land, a solitary figure against the immensity of the ocean. Barefoot, her skin pale against the dark, wet sand. The spray plastered the linen of her dress to the curve of her thighs, revealing the subtle swell of muscle beneath. It wasn't a provocative display, merely natural, wild. The wind tore at her hair, a dark, wild cascade the color of a raven's wing, and when she finally turned, her gaze locked onto mine. A jolt, not of surprise, but of recognition, of asterisk need, shot through me, so potent it nearly buckled my knees. It wasn't a casual glance, it was a claiming. Ancient eyes, the color of deep-sea glass flecked with gold, eyes that held the weight of centuries, the echoes of forgotten empires, eyes that promised both salvation and ruin. A tremor ran through me, a primal response to something deeply, instinctively known. I hadn't felt this exposed, this vulnerable in years. "Late again," she murmured, her voice a low rasp that vibrated against my skin, even from this distance. It wasn't an accusation, more a statement of fact, laced with a hint of amusement. The sound sent a shiver down my spine. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry, the metallic taste intensifying. "Do I know you?" The question felt foolish even as it left my lips. It wasn't a question of acquaintance, but of something far more profound, a buried memory struggling to surface. A ghost of a smile touched her lips, bitter as brine. It didn't reach her eyes. "Not yet, but you will." She moved closer, each step deliberate, graceful as a predator. The distance between us shrank and the air thickened, charged with a heat that had nothing to do with the dying sun. It was a magnetic pull, a force that threatened to unravel the carefully constructed composure I'd maintained for so long. I could smell the salt on her skin, the faint scent of something wild and untamed, sea kelp, ozone, and something else, something floral and intoxicating, like night-blooming jasmine. It was a scent that stirred forgotten dreams. "My name is Alara." She didn't offer her hand, didn't need to. The introduction felt less like a courtesy and more like a declaration, a branding. She appeared each evening at twilight, a siren calling me to the rocks. At first I tried to rationalize it, a fascinating subject for my photography, a beautiful woman in a dramatic landscape, but the explanation felt hollow, a flimsy shield against the truth. I found myself compelled to capture her, not with my camera but with brushstrokes. I hadn't painted in years, not since asterisk her asterisk, but now the urge was overwhelming. Desperate to hold onto the fleeting image of her silhouette against the fading light, canvas after canvas filled my studio, each one a testament to my obsession. Her fingers trailing in the water, her gaze fixed on the horizon, a silent plea etched on her face. I tried to capture the sadness in her eyes, the weight of the world she seemed to carry. But the paintings always fell short, lacking the depth, the asterisk soul of the original. "Why do you keep watching me?" I asked one night, my voice barely a whisper, the sound swallowed by the roar of the waves. The bonfire crackled, casting flickering shadows that danced across the sharp angles of her face, highlighting the high cheekbones and the delicate curve of her jaw. Alara leaned back against a weathered rock, the firelight illuminating the delicate curve of her neck, the pulse point throbbing faintly beneath her skin. She didn't flinch, didn't look away. "You already know." I did. It wasn't a logical understanding, but a visceral certainty that resonated deep within my bones. Fragments of past lives flooded my mind, the feel of her weight in my arms on a medieval battlefield, the cold steel of a sword pressed against my back as she fought beside me, the dizzying spin of a waltz in a Victorian ballroom, her hand warm in mine as we navigated the crowded floor. The smoky haze of a 1920s speakeasy and the taste of forbidden whiskey on her lips, her laughter echoing in the dimly lit room. Each time a connection, each time a shared glance, a silent understanding that transcended words. Each time a devastating loss, a burning ache of separation. "Destined but never fated," she breathed, her voice a fragile echo of my own thoughts. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning, bound by a thread but always severed before it could truly bind. Her hand brushed against mine, a fleeting touch that sent a searing current of electricity surging through my veins, leaving me breathless and trembling. It wasn't a gentle touch, but a claiming, a recognition, a promise. Until now. The storm arrived on the seventh night, a furious onslaught of wind and rain. The waves, no longer a gentle rhythm, became monstrous, clawing at the cliffs, threatening to swallow the land whole. The bonfire had been extinguished hours ago, leaving us shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the flashes of lightning. Alara stood at the precipice, the waves crashing around her feet, her dark hair whipping around her face like a shroud. She wasn't afraid, she was waiting. I stumbled towards her, driven by a force I couldn't comprehend. "Ilara, you shouldn't be out here." My voice was lost in the roar of the storm. She turned, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "It's time," she said, her voice barely audible above the wind. "Time to break the cycle." A wave, larger than any I'd seen before, rose up before us, a towering wall of water. It wasn't a threat, but an invitation, a gateway. What is happening?" I stammered, fear finally gripping me. Alara reached for my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "We've been running from this for centuries, fighting against what we are, but it's time to embrace it." She pulled me closer, her body pressed against mine, shielding me from the worst of the wind and rain. Her lips, cold and salty, brushed against my ear. "Trust me." And against all reason, against every instinct for self-preservation, I did. I closed my eyes, bracing for the impact. The wave crashed over us, engulfing us in a swirling vortex of water and darkness. But instead of drowning, I felt a transformation, emerging, a homecoming. The taste of blood on the sea was no longer unsettling. It was familiar. It was asterisk us asterisk.